Well, hello again. Hi, friends and family and loved ones. Hi, all. Hey, so a couple days ago, I did a video on regeneration and wandering and ascent and descent and the life and death cycles, life, death, rebirth. And yeah, just talking about some things that I've been working with and playing through and playing back and just playing at being, yeah, playing at being me, playing at being all I am, and yeah, showing up and playing for me, like for healing and for revealing and for all this magic and alchemy. Yeah, through creative play, creative, um, yeah, the creative force, like my creativity, and just life's creativity. And yeah, it's just kind of been fun, really. And so I have some fun synchronicities to share. So I read a couple days ago in my Women Who Run with the Wolves book about the third stage, the wandering, and it was like just kind of sharing a little bit about a story that was earlier in the book called The Handless Maiden. And that was like a story like related to like the Persephone myth. And so, yeah, that's been coming up a couple times in certain ways too. So it's interesting, like the focus and the attention, where the attention goes, energy goes. And then, yeah, and it is like that. What we take in, we become, and like what we're seeking is seeking us, and all of that. And so it is like a dance and a play and like an interchange. So it's kind of, yeah, really fun. And so what happened, about 2 hours after I uploaded my video a couple days ago, I was just in my bedroom and I went over to my bookshelf and was just kind of looking at some titles, and I was like, no, that's not the one, that's not the one. And then I was about to give up, and then I saw something, and it was this one, The Universe, the Gods, and Men, Ancient Greek Myths by Jean-Pierre Vernant. And it was a book that my dad gave me in 2005, and I haven't ever read it. And so I've been looking at mythology and like some of the Greek myths, so I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll look and see if the Golden Fleece myth is in here. And so I picked it up and I flipped it open, and I opened to Odysseus, the Human Adventure. And so I thought, oh, well, let's see what's here for me. And so I got to read this delightful little story about Odysseus and his travel to the land of forgetting. And that was so super cool. And it was just a page and a half, really, but it was very profound. And the next little story was Odysseus himself faces Cyclops. And then how that story ended was just so funny and in sync. It was definitely a wink wink from the universe. And so the next page that I flipped it open to after I finished that was directly to Europa, the Wanderer. And so I just thought it was so funny that it was like I was kind of focused on that, like the wandering, like the stage of the wandering, and like that rebirth and death, and yeah, all of that, and returning home again. Um, yeah, the hero's journey, the fool's journey, going out into the world, yeah, or going within, yeah, to find something, and then returning, going back home to share what we've learned and all that. And so it just keeps, yeah, expanding like on those different themes, like for the last couple days. And it was just such a treat actually to get those stories that night, and it had to do with the wandering. And then the next day, there was a video that came up that somebody that I follow, they had just put up, like, yeah, just that day, and it was about the Persephone myth and the Persephone ritual. And so that was interesting to see in certain ways too, like how, yeah, those things are just coming up because they're emerging from the unconscious, and ready to be illuminated. And it's just so fun. And so, I wanted to share a little bit about like how these two stories relate, and the wandering and the transitions and the life, the death and the rebirth cycles and the cycles of growth and the cycles of creation, the cycles of manifestation, and all of that, and how, certain messages and themes and archetypes and companions and allies and totems, like, have messages to share and to teach. And opportunities are being presented. And it's the potency right now for manifesting what we want to create is so huge right now. And it's just so exciting. And so I wanted to share a little bit about these stories and the rebirth of spring and the rebirth of this new life. And what's coming up is our new moon on Saturday. So that's in 2 days. And then the week after, March 20th, is our spring equinox, or the vernal equinox. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what energies that day and that cycle and that point on the wheel of the year, what's available for us to draw from and to draw upon, to help us create what we want, what we want to see and what we want to dream and what we want to bring in through our creativity. So I'll just share a little bit about this first story, Odysseus. And I had never really read, maybe since I was a kid, like I couldn't remember like what that story was about. Some of them I'm pretty familiar with because like some of the favorite stories or the more well-known stories, I guess, like I'm just more familiar with. But I love learning, and I love this journey of discovery, and it's like my second childhood, and it is so fun and joyful and playful, and it feels really good. And so I'll just read a little bit. So Odysseus had a ship and a crew, and he was one of those that helped the Greeks destroy Troy. So the Greeks did not stop at conquering it, taking it, they sacked it and burned it by means of a trick. The well-known wooden horse the Trojans drew into their city, believing it was a pious offering to the gods. And so we know how that kind of turned out for the Trojans. But then it was time for Agamemnon and Menelaus to go back home. And from the start, a disagreement rumbles between Agamemnon and Menelaus, and the latter hopes to leave immediately to get right home. But Agamemnon, though he wants to stay on and make a sacrifice to Athena, who supported the Greeks' cause among the gods and thus determined their victory. And so Odysseus travels with 12 vessels that he had brought to Troy, and he decides to set off immediately for Ithaca. So he decides to go home, and he embarks with Menelaus on the same ship that is also carrying old Nestor. And so, there they have, they meet some troubles and, a tempest that he's separated from Agamemnon's ship and then the largest part of their fleet. And so Odysseus is alone on the seas with his own flotilla, and he faces the same ordeals, weathers the same storms as his comrades in distress. When at last he disembarks in Thrace among the Chicones, the reception is hostile. Odysseus seizes their city as Maros, and he behaves toward the vanquished as did many Greek heroes. He kills most of the city's inhabitants, but he does spare one, Meron, the priest of Apollo. In thanks, Meron offers him several goat skins full of a wine that is no ordinary drink, but a kind of divine nectar. Odysseus has the wineskins stored on his ships. The Greeks are pleased, and they set up camp for the night along the shore, expecting to sail on at break of the day. But the Chicones from the countryside are alerted to the enemy presence, and they attack them at dawn and kill a great many. Their survivors clamber hastily onto the ships, cast off, and flee as fast as they can. So here's in the country of forgetting. And so they sail on, the fleet much reduced. A little farther along, Odysseus approaches Cape Malea and passes it. From that point, he can already sight the shores of Ithaca, his homeland. He feels as if he is home again, but just as he imagines his trip is over, the curtain rises on another part of Odysseus's journey. All he had done so far was the voyage of any naval commander heading back from a military expedition across the sea. When they round Cape Malea, though, a tempest suddenly crashes down on the Greeks. It will blow for 7 long days, moving the flotilla into a region utterly different from the one in which it had been sailing. Odysseus has no idea where he is. From now on, he will meet no one like the Jacones, hostile warriors, but still people similar to himself. In a way, he leaves the bounds of the known world of the human. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word. I think it's Latin, maybe. It means the other world or from elsewhere. Yeah. He enters a realm of non-human kind, a world of elsewhere. From this point on, Odysseus comes across only beings who are either quasi-divine, who feed on nectar and ambrosia like Circe or Calypso, or beings who are subhuman, monsters like the Cyclops, or the Laestrygonians, cannibals who feed on human flesh. For the Greeks, the signal feature of man, what defines him as such, is the fact of eating bread and drinking wine, having a certain kind of food, and acknowledging the laws of hospitality, welcoming the foreigner rather than devouring him. The universe into which Odysseus and his sailors have been thrown by the terrible tempest is the complete opposite of this normal human world. Scarcely has the tempest abated when the Greeks make out a shoreline. They land in an unknown country. To learn something about who lives there and to find provisions, Odysseus picks a few sailors and sends them off as scouts, and as an advance party to make contact with local people. They are received with enormous kindness. The natives are full of smiles, and they invite the foreign seamen to share their usual meal. Now, the inhabitants of this country are the Lotophagi, the lotus eaters. Just as man feeds on bread and wine, so they eat an exquisite plant, the lotus. If a human should consume that delicious food, he forgets everything. He no longer recalls his own past. He loses all notion of who he is, where he comes from, and where he's going. Anyone who eats of the lotus ceases to live as men live, with the memory of the past in them and the sense of what they are. When they meet their companions again, Odysseus' scouts refuse to go back to sea, and they are incapable of telling what's happened to them. They seem drugged in a sort of bliss that paralyzes all remembrance. All they ask is to stay right where they are, as they are, with no more connections and no past and no expectations and no yearning for home. Odysseus takes them by the nape of the neck, sets them squarely on their ships, and sails off. So that was the first stop, a land that is the country of forgetting. Throughout the long journey to follow, at every moment behind all Odysseus' adventures with his companions, this forgetting, this erasure of any memory of the homeland, any desire to return to it, forgetting is the constant danger, the evil. To be in the human world is to be living in sunlight, seeing other people and being seen by them. Living in mutuality, bearing in mind both oneself and other people. Here, though, they are entering a world where nocturnal powers, the children of night, as Hesiod calls them, will slowly spread their sinister shadow over Odysseus' crew and over Odysseus himself. A cloud of darkness hangs perpetually over the navigators, and it threatens to be their undoing if they fall to forgetting about the journey home. And so, that was interesting too. The return home, or the return ascent, so it did go along with my theme, and I did think that it was interesting too that, what makes us human is, what defines him as such. The signal feature of man for the Greeks is the fact of eating bread and drinking wine, having a certain kind of food and acknowledging the laws of hospitality, welcoming the foreigner rather than devouring him. And so also, the unknown country, and it's the complete opposite of what they know. I thought that was kind of funny. And the lotus, eating the lotus causes an amnesia of forgetting. So forgetting is the constant danger, the evil. To be in the human world is to be living in the sunlight, seeing other people and being seen by them, living in mutuality, bearing in mind both oneself and other people. And so, yeah, the next part of the story was Odysseus himself faces the Cyclops. And so, yeah, this story is a little bit longer, but it is kind of clever. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'll go into all of it right now, but it is kind of funny. So they find this cave, and yeah, they stumble upon it, and they find that it's filled with all of these different cheeses and everything. And they're just like, oh, let's grab these cheeses and let's just go. Let's not stick around to find out who lives here. But as Odysseus and his crew are like kind of going through like the little things, the cheeses, and exploring this cave. Oh yes, because of Odysseus's curiosity. Odysseus's curiosity always urges him farther beyond, which this time could easily be his undoing. In fact, that curiosity does cause the death of several of his companions, because the Cyclops soon arrives with his goats and his sheep and his ram, and the whole throng crowds into the cave. The Cyclops is enormous, gigantic. He does not immediately notice the little fellows like fleas hiding in the niches of the cavern and shaking with fear. Suddenly he does discover them, and he addresses Odysseus, who is standing a little ahead of the group. Who are you? And Odysseus naturally starts bluffing. He tells him the first lie. I've lost my ship, even though his ship lies waiting for him. My ship is wrecked, and so I am totally at your mercy. I've come here with my men to implore your hospitality. We are Greeks. We fought valiantly for Agamemnon at Troy, and we took the city, and now we are here, miserable castaways. And the Cyclops responds, fine, fine, but you know something? I don't give a damn about all that. And he snatches up two of Odysseus's companions by the feet, knocks them against the rock wall, shatters their heads, and swallows them raw. The other sailors are frozen with terror, and Odysseus wonders what he's gotten into. The more so because there is no hope of escape for the night. The Cyclops has closed off the entrance to his lair with a huge boulder that no Greek, not even a sizable team of them, could manage to budge. The next day, the scenario is repeated. The Cyclops eats 4 more men, 2 in the morning and 2 at night. He has devoured 6 by now, half the crew, and he's utterly delighted. When Odysseus tries cajoling him with honeyed talk, a kind of guest-host bond starts to build between them. Odysseus tells him, I'm going to give you a gift I believe you'll find very satisfying, and a dialogue begins, over the course of which there emerges a personal relationship, a hospitality connection. The Cyclops introduces himself, Polyphemus. He is a voluble character and very famous. He asks Odysseus his name, and to establish a relationship of host and guest, it is the custom for each party to tell the other who he is, where he comes from, and who are his parents, and what is his homeland. Odysseus tells the Cyclops his name is Otis, or Autus, which means nobody. He says, my friends and relations call me Autus. This is a play on words, for the 2 syllables of Otis can be replaced by another term, metis. You and me, I guess maybe it's Wheatus. Yeah, I don't know. It's O-U-T-I-S. And so, yeah, we'll just say Otis for now. So, O-U and me in Greek are the 2 prefixes for indicating the negative. But the word Otis means nobody, and metis means trickery. Ruse, cunning. Of course, the word metis instantly brings to mind Odysseus, who is the very hero of metis, of cunning, of skill, at finding a way out of the inextricable, at lying, hoodwinking people, and telling them wild stories, and at getting out of tight spots. Otis, nobody, exclaims the Cyclops. Well, since you're nobody, I'll give you a gift too. I'll eat you up last. Whereupon Odysseus hands him his own gift, a cup of wine that Marin had given him, which is sacred nectar. The Cyclops drinks of it, declares it marvelous, pours himself some more. Sated with the cheeses and with 2 sailors he's just swallowed, and drunk from the wine, he soon falls asleep. Now is Odysseus' chance. He heats up an enormous olive tree trunk he sharpened to a point. The surviving seamen all help with the carving and then with the maneuver, driving the burning pike into Polyphemus' eye. He wakes up howling. His single eye is blinded, and now he too is consigned to night, to darkness. Naturally, he cries out for help, and all his fellow Cyclops from round about come running. Every Cyclops lives by himself, each is a master in his own dwelling. The Cyclops acknowledged no god or master apart from what is eat in his home. But still they do come running, and from outside, since the cavern mouth is blocked, they shout, Polyphemus, Polyphemus, what's wrong? Ah, it's terrible, he's killing me. Who's hurt you? Nobody. Well, if no one, Metis, is hurting you, why are you bothering us? And they leave. And so Odysseus, who's taken a powder, skipped out, ducked away, and vanished behind the name he rigged for himself, is nearly saved. Not entirely, because he still has to get out of the cave with that enormous boulder blocking the door. He sees only one solution: to escape as the sheep are let out to pasture. He will take willow shoots and lash each of the 6 remaining Greeks beneath the belly of a sheep. He himself will cling to the thick fleece on the underside of Polyphemus's favorite ram. When the giant takes up his position at the doorway of the lair and has shoved aside the rock blocking it, he passes each animal between his legs and feels along its back to make sure no Greek is riding on it. And he does not notice the Greek slung hiding beneath. When the ram carrying Odysseus is on its way out, the Cyclops speaks to it. The ram is actually the only being he talks to. And he says, "Look at what that dreadful brute nobody did to me. I'll get even with him for it." And the ram proceeds out of the cavern, and Odysseus exits with it. The Cyclops rolls the stone back into place, believing that the Greeks are still inside the den, when in fact they are already on their feet outside. They speed down the rocky little trails to the bay where their ships lie camouflaged, and they leap aboard, loosen the moorings, and move off from the coast. High above them, they can see the Cyclops stuck on the rocky peak beside his cave, blinding, hurling huge stones down after them. Odysseus cannot resist the pleasure of taunting and gloating. He shouts, "Cyclops! If anybody asks who blinded your eye, tell them it was Odysseus, son of Laertes. Odysseus of Ithaca, pillager of cities, conqueror of Troy. Odysseus of the 1,000 tricks. Well, of course, you spit up into the air, and it's likely to fall back into your face." The Cyclops is the son of Poseidon, who is the great god of all the ocean waters, but also god of everything underground. It's Poseidon who sets off earthquakes and tempests. The Cyclops pronounces a solemn curse upon Odysseus. A curse that only works when it uses the target's real name. If Odysseus had taunted Polyphemus under the name Nobody, the curse might have failed, but now the Cyclops knows the Greek's true name. He passes it along to his father, Poseidon, and he pleads for revenge, that Odysseus may not return home to the land of Ithaca without suffering 1,000 disasters, all of his companions dying, his ship capsizing and leaving him alone, lost, a castaway. If Odysseus should somehow nonetheless get through all of this alive, the Cyclops wants him to reach Ithaca as a stranger on a strange ship, not as the long-awaited seafarer making a triumphal return on his own vessel. Poseidon hears his son's curse. From that episode dates his determination, which will govern all of Odysseus' subsequent adventures, that this man shall be forced to the farthest frontier of the shades and of death, and that his ordeal shall be the most dreadful possible. As Odysseus' great protector, Athena will explain later, Poseidon could not accept the injury done to his son, the Cyclops, and therefore Athena could not intervene. She could only put in an appearance at the very end, when Odysseus' wanderings were over, when he was already nearly home. Why? Because the consequence of tossing Polyphemus' eye out into the night, of blinding him, is that Odysseus must himself also wander dark, confusing, and sinister paths. And so, yeah, I thought that was like, wow, that was like a really interesting and fun story for me. And it was a synchronicity, it was a sync wink for that wandering stage. And then, yeah, the next page that I flipped it open to was Europa the Wanderer. And yeah, there was some interesting things in this little story, but I'm not going to go into it really right now. It's from the chapter Dionysus at Thebes, or Thebes. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to butcher some of these words and these names because it's not my native tongue. But yeah, even English I have a hard time with sometimes. It's kind of fun. Anyways, the fun things that I got to kind of receive from those stories. Yeah, I'll just read a little bit of kind of what I wrote down. Funny sync weeks of play. In this chapter about Dionysus at Thebes and a goddess named Harmonia So yeah, it was the daughter of Harmonia, between a union of Aphrodite, who's the goddess of love, and Aries, the goddess of war. And so, like those two opposites, love and war. And then they have a daughter named Harmonia. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, oh yeah. And I think in Roman mythology, she's known as Concord. So, a wonderful story about going home in Odysseus and the land of forgetting and beyond. So I get to look further into these stories and examine their depths and patterns, relationships, insights, correspondence, and messages. And so, yeah, just a lot of different connections and how, the different relationships lead to different encounters and different stories, and going further on the path and all of that. And it's all like a return home, and it's all about a journey and a discovery and seeing what we're really made of, and like knowing ourselves. And we wouldn't know ourselves if we didn't like go on this journey and take this journey. And so yeah, I thought that was just really, really fun, like just to kind of like receive those, not even expecting it, like just kind of had an impulse, so maybe I'll find the golden fleece in here, but it wasn't actually, the story wasn't in there, but I found it somewhere else. And and read it there. But it does correspond, with the ram and the Aries totem or symbol, the bighorn sheep. And I've been looking at Aries energy, and just those kinds of energies, and that's what we're coming into in just the next week or two, is Aries. And like in spring equinox, when the night and the day will be equal and all of that. So what I found next was, because I was going to look up the ram again in my animal speak book, and it actually did go to buffalo again, where I had just read about buffalo and generosity from medicine cards. So I was looking at my animal speak book, and it went straight to buffalo, and there was some fun things in there, and I just wanted to like share a couple of things about buffalo again, and some other animal companions and teachers and friends. And there's like some common threads here. So about generosity and hospitality and all of that, and abundance. So buffalo is about gratitude, generosity, abundance, synchronicity. It means that synchronicity is at play and operating at this moment in your life. In this moment of now. And I was like, I'd say it is. I'd really say so. It sure is. Like, it is. So it's, natural flow and natural rhythm. Prayers, healing, energy reserves, the union of masculine and feminine, sacred relationship, alchemical marriage. White Buffalo woman taught the Lakota that they did not have to struggle to survive if their right action was joined with their right prayer, alignment. And so uniting the mundane and the divine appropriately, so all that would be needed would be available. The Lord helps those who help themselves. So embrace and hold life. The mundane and spiritual is necessary to manifest what we seek. Get grounded. So the buffalo has a large hump and a very large head. And so the hump is about like energy reserves, and it's also about like the shoulders. We can carry burdens on our shoulders, or we can carry our rewards. And it is about support. So getting grounded and to receive that support. It has 4 legs, so it is like stability and structure, and that. So no need to push or to force anything. Follow the easiest path, which means it implies the law of synchronicity is operating now. So we don't need to force anything. We just get to show up, do what we need to do, and respond. Things will happen in the time, manner, and means if we allow it to. Like, let's make our own efforts and be present. But we don't need to struggle. Yeah. So I liked that. And yeah, a couple of other animals that came up. I will share. Turkey came up a couple times in the last couple days. And so Turkey is all about the giveaway and gift giving, sharing with others. Giving is without regret, through a joyful heart. That's what the true spirit of giving is, the generosity of spirit, the gifts of nourishment that sustain life, that sustain and support life. So there's that. It's known as the South Eagle to some indigenous tribes. And it is respected for its self-sacrifice so that all may truly live. It's the medicine of saints and mystics. It's the realization that all life is sacred and great spirit resides within all people. And so I really like that. And so the next couple of animals I will share in my next video. But just share Rhino, because Rhino came up. And so Rhino is solidity, ancient wisdom, and proper perspective. It's innate wisdom and finding its application to our present time. So it's about being solitary, because they live in solitude. So it's one's own comfort in solitude. But it's not alone, really, because it does have an ally. It's the oxpecker bird, the bird that is usually seen with the rhino. Eliminates the pests and the flies that sting, And so, there's that relationship that it has with another species. And it's kind of interesting. Like, it's a symbiotic kind of a relationship. And so solitary, being comfortable in one's own skin, being comfortable within yourself. It's knowing thyself. So it's all about discernment and higher discrimination, sensitivity and spiritual idealism, application of higher wisdom, trusting your higher wisdom. No one knows better for you than you. You have the answers inside of you. See beyond the surface of things. And then the amount of time for gestation for the young is 17 to 18 months. And this can correspond to new access to ancient wisdom, and assimilation can occur. So assimilation of this wisdom can occur in this same time frame. So it's like a cycle that could be being initiated now that will see its completion in 17 to 18 months from now. And so I thought that was interesting too. And then there's one more that I want to share for now. It's Dragonfly, and that's about illusion, and it's about power, and it's about change. And creation, claiming our own power. And so it's messages of wisdom and enlightenment, communications with the elementals and the elemental realms, nature spirits. So break down the illusions you have held that restrict your actions or ideas. What habits need to change? What habits get to change? So call on Dragonfly to guide you through the mists of illusion to your pathway of transformation. Things are never completely as they seem. There's no need to prove your power, or you lose your power. Don't buy into others' ideas of who you should be. And there's a lot more to Dragonfly, but that's just kind of the fun things and the succinct versions. And so, another couple cool things that came up today and in the last month or so, very much so, is butterfly transformation, cycles of creation, continuity, stages and phases of growth, of self-transformation, going within, and then transforming, then leaving the chrysalis and going through the birth process, sharing the colors and joy of our creations with the world. The creativity, all the colors, inspiration, clarity. This has to do with air and the higher mind and courage and flight, new worlds and new life. And so I thought that was like freaking amazing and awesome to receive those messages from my animal friends and companions. And yeah, I got to give a friend a reading today, and Butterfly came up again through her spread, through her cards, and it was like, yeah, really amazing. I'll want to share like some certain things next time when I want to go into Aries and like continue with like this life, death, rebirth cycle theme, and like transformation and yeah, transformation and growth and growing and yeah, releasing, surrendering, letting go, making space, making room for the new to come through, holding the tension of the two, so the third can be birthed through. Yeah, all those things, and a new cycle can continue. So yeah, one of my other things, like the next day after I had seen like some of the Persephone myth come up again, and like yeah, kind of like processing that in certain ways, and certain stories do activate certain codes or certain energies within us for self-realization and for transformation. So I think that that's really cool to look at those things. Like if certain stories are coming up or certain characters, we can see common threads or common themes. Like there's certain things there for us to see, and we don't like need to force it or make it fit into like what we think we need. But yeah, which is interesting as well because it's magic, and that has to do with Raven came up today, and so we can't logically figure it out. We're not meant to. And but be open to receive that it's the unknown at work, and the great mystery. And so yeah, it's like trusting the great mystery and the unknown and all of that, and letting go. And it is like we are transitioning from the age of belief into the age of knowing. And so it is a dance, and it's super interesting and fascinating, and it's getting super magical and playful. And I just love like the new energies and like the new access and the resources and the gifts that are available. And yeah, it is all about the gifts, the gift giving, and the generosity of spirit and Mother Earth, who is like who gives us everything. And Turtle came up today, and that was like a reminder again, yeah, to be mindful of the give and take and reciprocal, yeah, reciprocity, that energy of yeah, reciprocal exchange, and knowing that everything that we need is given to us and it is provided. And yeah, what a couple of things. Turtle, what I wrote down, since she wanted to be included, so slow, steady, and stability, and that is another common thread of support there. And it is protection. Mother Earth, Goddess energy, be mindful of give and take, to give back to the Mother as she has given to us. So it's about protection and medicine shields. It's a reminder to honor our feelings and to go within, honor the creative force within us, to be grounded to the earth and to observe our situation with motherly compassion. Water and earth are Turtle's two homes. Flow harmoniously and place your feet firmly on the ground in a power stance. Slow to a pace that assures completion. You're not a victim. You're a beloved child of earth. Yeah. Good reminder. And so, yeah, with that said, yeah, I wanted to share just a little bit about Aries, since that's the energy we're moving into, and it's going to be a potent equinox. And I'm going to share just a little bit about, yeah, the energies, about that turning point of the wheel with the spring equinox, when the day and the night, the light and the dark are equal. And it is about union and balance. So it's really awesome. So yeah, there was something that I got after the Persephone myth. I just decided to click on a video about astrology is Molly McCord, her intuitive astrology. And I got this like beautiful these beautiful messages about what's going on in Aries. And yeah, there's this aspect of Venus where it's like a Venus star point in Aries, and Chiron will also be in Aries, and the North Node will be in Gemini. And so I thought, hey, that's really cool because I've been focused a lot on, because of doing my own astrology, I've been focused a lot on Aries and Gemini. And so that's really cool that actually that relates to me in certain ways, but it relates to the collective as well, of course. And so the inner and the outer, and the new and the old, and the above and below, and all of that at play. And so some fun things. Yeah, that I wrote down. So new heart healing and awakening energies, birthing new parts of our hearts, the fullness of all we are, self-love, self-mastery, new clarity, inspiration, and personal power. And here's a quote from Molly McCord that I wrote down. She loves herself enough to show up and listen to her guidance, her soul's whispers. Living authentically with brutal self-honesty is a commitment that she has made to herself numerous times throughout her journey. She recommits to both her inner knowingness and her trust in something bigger than herself. She's got this. Molly McCord, The Modern Heroine's Journey of Consciousness. And so we'll just read a little bit about like what the energies hold, and it's the rewiring process too. It's an opening, it's an initiation for authenticity, healing, and transformation, working with boundaries, self-acceptance, being here in the present moment, reconnection, warmth, and expansion, confidence in self, courage, support, new light, raising consciousness and awareness, knowing ourselves, a sense of self-worth, self-love, self-respect, and valuing ourselves, being loved, loving ourselves, recalibration. How do I see myself? Surrendering, nurturance, higher perspectives, integration, interaction, and responsibility. Strength, intuition, personal healings and growth, transformation. And stories, tales, myths, identities, memories, records, the Akasha. Yeah, there's a lot of things coming up with that. Roles and experiences in and through our relationships, different imprints, patterns, and common threads. Let's look at those things. Let's look at the roles and experiences in and through our relationships, some of those imprints, some of the patterns at play, and the common threads. Focus on leadership, self-ownership, and relationship. Empowerment, sovereignty, and reciprocal harmony. Respect, differentiation, receptivity. Integrity, healthy boundaries, forgiving, for being, for joy. And yeah. So yeah, it's going to be a new moon soon, and we can set our intentions and welcome in what we want to bring in, and go within and do our own investigation, our own listening, because we have the answers that we need inside of us, inside of we. And it is like nice actually to get validation and confirmation from others too, and or like just those synchronicities at play. But yeah, we know better for ourselves than anyone else does. And so let's trust ourselves and trust our inner knowing, trust our hearts, and trust our intuition. And so yeah, so Aries. From the collectiveness of Pisces energy emerges the soul's desire to experience itself in human form. Aries is born as an initiator to kickstart the journey of physical light with enthusiasm, initiative, motivation, and leadership. Charged with the ability to begin a new task, Aries will lead the pack on the road to self-discovery and assert themselves as a pioneer discovering new terrain. The light of Aries shines brightly when actions are taken to honor, respect, and guide all with the highest of intentions for their personal awareness and growth. Aries shows us where to lead with fresh energy and where we must honor our relationship with self. That's Molly McCord, Conscious Intuitive Astrology, and that is about conscious Aries energy. And so I was like, hey, that's really freaking awesome. And just a little bit about Aries, the Vernal Equinox. So the Vernal Equinox is, vernal means bloom, and equinox comes from Latin, and it means equal night. So March 20th this year is the vernal equinox, and it occurs when the sun crosses the first point of Aries at the junction of the equator and the ecliptic. The first point of Aries is a point in the constellation of Pisces. And so that point is presently in Pisces and is slowly moving along the line of the ecliptic towards Aquarius at a rate of about 1 degree every 70 years. And that was from the website eskyglyphweb.com. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, like, because, yeah, I'm preparing for a spring equinox circle, and so I was just searching for different things to do, or, yeah, just different ideas for inspiration on, like, yeah, what do I want to, like, offer this year? And so I've been finding, like, little different things, and I'm so excited about Ostara, which, yeah, that's another name for that holy day, and that's where Easter comes from. And Ishtar and Inanna, and yeah, that resurrection and fertility of the land, and yeah, the new life and rebirth, yeah, the rebirth of life, and new life, and new light, and new love, yeah. And so that's just, yeah, pretty awesome. All of that all relates. So Aries keywords are self-expression, assertion, forcefulness, urgency, initiative, courage, aggression, impulse, enterprise, passion, selfishness, leadership, egotism, combustible, foolhardy, survival instinct, assertive, thrusting nature. Dragons, sheep, and tigers are associated with Aries. So yeah, that includes the bighorn sheep, the ram. And it's from March 20th to April 19th. The planet that rules Aries is Mars. It's a cardinal sign, and its element is fire. Its season is spring. Its day is Tuesday. Its number is 9. It rules the head and the face, the adrenals, and the suprarenal glands. And then, yeah, just some of the things that are associated with it: electricity, sharp things, metals, anger, and satire. The colors are red and white, and the gems are rubies and diamonds. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of fun, kind of cool. And I really enjoyed reading about Aries in this Mythic Astrology book by Liz Greene. Yeah, looking more deeply into these things has been really rewarding. And so the sign of Aries begins the cycle of the zodiac at the vernal equinox, and its nature reflects the raw energy of spring when new shoots thrust above the ground and the natural world begins to rouse from its winter sleep. In myth, the pioneering spirit of the first of the fire signs is reflected by the ram-headed Egyptian Amun. And I was just wondering, is that Amun-Ra? So, self-engendered creator of all the other gods. The combative and heroic nature of Aries is portrayed in the tale of the Golden Fleece, the treasure sought by the Greek hero Jason and his Argonauts on their long, difficult voyage. In Jason himself, a courageous and inspired but sometimes foolhardy figure, may be seen both the best and the worst qualities of Aries. In fact, much of the archetypal imagery of heroic tales, rivalry with the ruling king, the dragon fight, the rescuing of the damsel in distress, describes different facets of the figure of the crusader and champion who embodies Aries' fundamental approach to life. Ruled by the planet Mars and filled with the vigor of the god of war, Aries begins the sun's great yearly journey with a blare of trumpets and a passionate call to arms. Vision and enthusiasm are still untainted by worldly disillusionment, and energy is expressed in fierce bursts. No challenge is too great, no obstacle too daunting, no rival too powerful to frighten Aries from the battle. The landscape of Aries is a turbulent one, a wild and stormy day in early spring when new buds are ready to burst into blossom, and the changeable sky reflects the unsettled energy of seasonal transition. There is a quality of violence in this inner landscape, but it reflects the fierce urgency of nature and contains no malevolence or destructive intent. T.S. Eliot wrote in The Wasteland that April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, stirring dule shoots with spring rain. The blind force necessary to bring life forth from stony winter ground may be glimpsed as spring gales tear trees from the earth, and the whole of the natural world seems torn by the convulsions of some gigantic birth. So there's a lot happening there, and it's like chaotic, and yeah. In the landscape of Aries, no new birth is possible without this cataclysm of nature, and it is inevitable that this sign will seek or generate conflict as a prelude to any new creative adventure. I thought that was super interesting, that sometimes we do need that conflict or that confrontation if we're to clear the air and to create something new. Yeah. And to get closure. Yeah, that's so interesting. So, yeah, no new birth is possible without this cataclysm of nature, and it is inevitable that this sign will seek or generate conflict as a prelude to any new creative venture. The thrusting phallic nature of Aries energy, expressed on mental, emotional, or physical levels, is not limited to men only, but is equally potent and vital in women. It is the irresistible challenge of the hard beginning and the invigorating struggle toward eventual conquest which enthuse Aries and call forth its greatest courage and vision. The lone knight errant, seeking new contests and new causes to be championed, is the embodiment of the questing spirit of Aries, which will inevitably seek to lead rather than follow, and would rather battle alone than compromise the power of the inner vision. On the everyday level, the sign of Aries can express restlessness, vision, initiative, courage, impatience, and explosive rage in the face of frustration. When this sign is emphasized in an individual birth chart, there is a profound need to pit oneself against life and to experience one's own strength and potency through struggle, competition, and the achievement of new goals. But sometimes a person whose horoscope reflects an emphasis in Aries may find it hard to express the restless and dynamic energy of the sign. This may be linked with early experiences which have undermined confidence and left fear and self-doubt in their wake. Yet even when it is denied outlets, the forceful nature of Aries energy will not tolerate endless suppression. It may surface through bouts of explosive temper, periods of depression which mask a great rage, or physical symptoms which translate emotional and creative frustration into repeating headaches or other signs of deep inner distress. The fiery energy of Aries needs channels through which the individual can experience challenge and the opportunity to try out new and innovative ideas. Whether these channels are intellectual, emotional, physical, or imaginative, it is important for those in whom the sign is strong to make plenty of room in their lives for the spirit of the pioneer. On the practical level, it might be wise for those in whom Aries is strongly emphasized to strive for independence in a field of work which gives them the freedom to make their own decisions and break new ground. Planets placed in Aries will express their energies and drives with dash, drama, and impulsiveness. The desire to be first and best is natural to Aries, and in order to express it, the individual needs to be able to face competition and tolerate others' criticism and envy. The more still-stayed and structured the lifestyle, the more the Arian individual will feel stifled, bored, angry, and frustrated. There is also a quality of naivety in this sign, which is both noble and a liability, for life is seen with the freshness and unsullied idealism of youth. Aries' idealism, whether romantic, political, or the reflection of a general worldview, infuses life with myth and magic and is one of the great assets of the sign. Yet it may also prove difficult for the individual to cope with the meaner dimensions of human nature and the inevitably frustrating limits of the mundane world. The inexorable tyranny of time is Aries' greatest enemy, for its impulsiveness may lead the individual to assume that anything imagined or desired will be translated into reality now, rather than later. Waiting is hard for Aries, and performing all the dreary tasks necessary to make a vision concrete may severely test the person's already short supply of patience. Aries is neither lazy nor incapable of discipline, but impatience and a kind of sublime arrogance may cause the individual to abandon the goal before it is achieved because of the inability to wait for things to ripen in their own time. The hot-blooded ram is an appropriate image for the combative instinct expressed by any planet placed in Aries. Rivalry and jealousy may cause many problems for Aries in personal life, and often the most desirable love object is the one someone has already claimed. Yet the fiery heart of this sign is transparently noble, and there is neither malice nor spite to be found there, any more than one can attribute malice or spite to the turbulent life force of early spring. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then there's a picture here of the bighorn sheep. In the landscape of Aries, two rams clash their horns in a ferocious contest of male supremacy against the backdrop of a fiery and turbulent early spring sky. Rams, like many Arians, fight compulsively and will not tolerate any sharing of territory. In this stormy landscape, the earth has not yet broken into life after its winter sleep, but the promise of growth may be glimpsed in the green shoots pushing forth above the ground. On a distant hill, a single standing stone rears its phallic silhouette against the sky, symbol of the power of heaven to quicken the receptive earth beneath. So, a symbol of the power of heaven to quicken the receptive earth beneath. So, it's really freaking awesome. I loved learning about the Aries energies, and I had never really looked at it before because I didn't think it applied to me, but it actually does in a lot of ways. And it's just kind of funny how I had my own ideas about things, and no, that's not me, but it really actually is. Like, there's so much of that I can call in for my own resources and my own gifts and strengths, like to develop those. Yeah. And so it's like amazing to discover that. And so we've been looking at like all of these qualities that do emerge or get activated in the springtime and all of that, and like all the correspondences of this time of year, and like what's going on like with the rhythms and everything. And it's just kind of fun that the ram and its horns are very symbolic, and like the horns are like receivers, and it is like very interesting that they're in like the shape of the spirals too, and that they are protection, and they can be a weapon. And so it is kind of interesting that way. But yeah, looking at the horns, and then like also like the energies at play, the fertility and the fecundity and all of that, and it's about sensuality and sexuality, and union between the masculine and the feminine and all of that. And so I was thinking, it's funny. It's like, and I've been calling my husband the horned god the last couple of days. Just playing. And so it's Pan. Also, that character Pan, or that god, the god of the earth, Pan, the green man. So it's, some of the correspondences there. So Pan, the horned god, and Priapus, Dionysus, Cyclops, Osiris, and the things that were coming up for me, Anubis and Hades, Pluto, Persephone, Ceres or Demeter, Hecate, Parvati, Durga, Kali, Shakti, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And some other, correspondences. So some of the goddesses are Aphrodite, Astarte, Athena, Aurora, she's been coming up for me, and that's the new dawn, the golden dawn. Eos, Gaia, Hera, and Juno, Venus, Inanna, Persephone, and Kor, maiden goddesses, mother goddesses, Isis, fertility and war goddesses. So Sophia, the goddess of wisdom, Mary, and Bridget. And then some of the other gods, Adonis, Thoth, Mars, Ares, Odin, Narcissus, and so it's kind of fun. And what else wants to be said? Oh So I'll just read this little last part of this journal, of my journal that I read, or that I wrote the other day. Um, so it's, whoa, interesting day of downloads, codes, realization, shifts, and remembrance, revelations, forgiveness, affirmation, and confirmation of living in the flow, not forcing. It's okay not to know, not trying to take control. Just breathe and let it go. It's okay, love, not to know. Relax and just let go. Be drawn, be pulled to what I know, what I love, where love is asking me to go. Just flow, be, wonder, awe, enthusiasm, curiosity, faith, hope, strength, trust, grace, and mercy. Compassion, forgiving our friends for their shortcomings and limitations, and those who trespass against us. Thanks for the lessons and the challenges to grow, learn, become, experience, know, and expand. The fruit, the seed, the pomegranate, the land, the living and the dead, the beginning and the end, the lion and the lamb, the heroine, monster, maiden, villain, dragon. Excited for Ostara now, and the fertility and energy and possibility for goodness, love, joy, beauty, prosperity, and healing, creating, regenerating, renewing, resurrecting, course correcting, redirecting, rising, stirring, expanding, awakening. The path of least resistance, synchronicity, multidimensional understanding, understanding, multidimensional concepts and codes, activating, initiating, percolating, penetrating, illuminating, cleansing, purifying, integrating, letting go, and surrendering to my soul's highest, fullest truth, and remembering, becoming, creating through being, all of me, through being all I am, to become more of me, creating my full life and fully embodying my love for me, relaxing into fullness and being one with me, we, thee, and she. And the new moon window. The new moon is in Pisces on March 13th, and the spring equinox March 13th. New life, light, love for growth and expansion. All these possibilities. Shifts, miracles, and magic. Synchronicities. Prayers, celebrations, love, and blessings. Acknowledgments and praise. Thank you, love, life, and light for this and everything. Thank you, darkness, fertile darkness. Thank you, love, for everything. Reading The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell yesterday. There were some interesting themes in related alchemy. The hero's journey, help from without, or a divine intervention and liberation, coming back into the world after descending and wandering, a rescue from without, the crossing of the return threshold, return, the magic flight, the road of trials, answering the call, and the refusal of the return. Yeah, master of the two worlds. Freedom to live and to return. The resurrection, the rescue, the threshold struggle, the keys, the cosmogonic cycle, emanations and dissolutions, returning home again. So, yeah, I just wrote a little bit about like certain stories that I was reading and some of the messages that were coming up for me. And yeah, that was super fun and enjoyable for me. I love this. And this is what I get to choose for me. And it's so fulfilling. And it is like so magical. And it's just like uniting that magic and the mundane, like just going into my room, like really, and just being drawn over there and like, no, I don't really feel like any of these books right now, and just kind of about to give up, but then like got pulled towards something, and then I got like the gift of those beautiful stories that held a lot of insight and messages in there for me. And so it is like just playing, and it's playing back, and it's playing through, and it's playing with God playing at being, and playing through being. So it is pretty awesome to play, and to co-create in these full true ways. And so co-create and play, learn, grow, be, receptivity, trust, hope, faith, and strength, grace, humility, mercy, peace, joy, gratitude, and praise, magic, dreams, imagination, clarity, and inspiration, creativity. So simplicity, presence, permission to be, invocation and welcoming, rebirth of the goddess and new life in spring, union of the feminine and masculine, balance, harmony, warmth and radiance, equal night and day, dark and light, light ascending, till summertime. At its peak, at its zenith, at sunrise, there's always light, the light that shines, always rises, from within, inside. Through the longest winter night, the light will shine. From deep inside, the light will shine. Just look inside, the light will shine. This is a sacred time to be alive. So I'll just end it there with that. And bless you all. And yeah, thanks for being here. All right, love you all and be well. Be love for yourselves. All is well. See you next time.